Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Avatar news update video. This one is going to be my thoughts, analysis on the Smoke and Shadow Part 2 preview that literally just came out a couple of hours ago thanks to comic book resources. So as you can see during this video, I'll have the pages up and I'll kind of go through them in order so you can see on screen what I'm actually analyzing as we go through. This is a 6-page preview. Usually we get a 7-page preview. Usually that means that something of note happens on the 7th page that they didn't actually want to reveal, because the whole 7-page preview thing is a really common thing in comics. So not really sure if that means something like really important happens on the next page or not, but maybe. Yeah, let's start with the first page that we have here, and we instantly catch up with Aang, Katara, and Sokka, who we just see here Katara and Sokka basically talking about, wanting to return to the South Pole, and like Aang's gonna go with them, of course, and stuff like this. They mention a reference to the rift. So clearly they've just returned after the rift. The events of the rifts have just happened, and the whole continuity is starting to come together. There's a lot of confusion before Smoke and Shadow Part 1 about where exactly everything takes place, but now it all does make sense. So Katara really wants to see her dad again. Sokka just wants some food, mentioning the fact that they have an aunt called Ashuna, Ashuna, and he wants her seal jerky. So that's interesting. We never knew about that, but either way, that's there. And yeah, he just says absence make the heart grow fonder, and then basically as they're about to leave to go back to the South Pole, Zuko's hawk arrives. He gets the letter. Obviously at the end of Smoke and Shadow Part 1, Zuko was going to bring Aang in because the Kamura Kage are spirits. He needs the Avatar to deal with spirits, and that's exactly what Zuko's message is. Very, very quick translation of the note is just, Aang, spirits are threatening the Fire Nation, please come help. No extra information, just like, gotta go do this. And you can instantly see on the end of this page that Katara's a little bit worried that, oh, you have to go, and Aang realizes he has to. He kind of says, why don't you come along with me? And Sokka, the line Sokka says here, I think is very kind of to the point. It's Spirit World stuff. When's the last time Spirit World stuff didn't take long? Dad's expecting us. And definitely with Sokka's thing, he's just kind of like, what can I do against spirits? We'll just be there for the sake of being there. We really don't have any need to come right now. Like, you're the one who is going to deal with the spirit stuff, so you go. And yeah, and then they just say, like, after you finish up things in the Fire Nation, you come back to the South Pole and meet up with us and stuff like that. And then you just get their kind of goodbye. They've been together for a long time. They haven't really been apart for any extended period of time, basically since Aang's injuries in between book 2 and 3. That's definitely the implication that's going on here, that this is going to be their first time like apart for a decent stretch of time since kind of Aang was unconscious for all that time. But Katara's accepting of this, and this is just stuff that comes with dating the Avatar. So Aang leaves, they're returning to the South Pole, and yeah, they're going to get their ride home. Those first 3 pages clearly setting up, I think, what the next Avatar comic series is going to be. Everyone has been predicting this for ages, that at some point we need Sokka and Katara to return to the South Pole. They set it up a little bit in the Rift, and now they're kind of heavily setting it up here. I'm wondering, is that going to take place? Is it going to work out in such a way where the first part of the next series is going to kind of take place concurrently with like the last part of this? So Aang will only actually appear in the next comic series in part 2 as well, kind of returning to the South Pole. I kind of liked him to do something like that, just so we maybe get one book that focuses on Sokka and Katara, because they really do need it. They haven't had that much focus or character development in all of the comics so far. But either way, I'm excited for when that actually happens. But yeah, Zuko, we then just cut straight away to Aang arriving at the Fire Nation. he arrives and we see Zuko obviously arrives there. They calls him Buddy. That's a nice thing. Mai and Aang kind of meet for the first time in a while, and Aang instantly is like, "Does this mean you're back together?" And Zuko has to introduce Aang to Mai's boyfriend Kalo, and there's instantly awkwardness, and Aang doesn't know what to say. Mai knows it's an awkward situation. You also get introduced to this guy, Constable Sung, who's leading the investigation into the kidnapping of Tom Tom. And then we just end the preview with Mai just basically getting Aang up to speed on what the Khmer Kage actually is, because as much as he's the Avatar and deals with spirits, he doesn't know the details of every single spirit. He needs some information, and it's basically just what Mai was saying at the end of part 1, but Aang needs to know this as well. But yeah, we get the Mai specifically says there are dark spirits there, so this is obviously a Korra thing. We got introduced to the idea of light and dark spirits. Is Aang going to be able to like purify these in a similar way to like Unalaq and Korra can? Not really sure about that. We still don't fully know if they actually are spirits, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'd kind of like something weird to happen to where it turns out they're not spirits, and actually Sokka and Katara could have been a big help or something like that, but they're off doing returning to their hometown. But yeah, overall, like, I think this is a really good preview. It's a great way to start off, the middle part of a book. Introducing us back to Aang, see what he's up to, introducing him back into the story very quickly, getting him to the Fire Nation and part of the investigation. So that's really effective, that like within the first 6 pages he's on board. He basically knows everything that's going on, and you've transitioned him away from being with Katara and Sokka to being with Zuko and Mai and stuff like that. You've set up the next comic series perfectly, and just like, okay, it's going to be Katara and Sokka. I doubt they'd just skip over that. It seems really important what's coming up next. And just stuff like them mentioning their aunt Ashuna, who I assume is probably going to be a character we get to see at some point in the South Pole. That when we return, we'll probably get to meet some of these characters. And I'd like to see some references actually back to like those early episodes of book 1, where like we see all those kids that Sokka was training, but now they're a little bit older, and we maybe get to see their thoughts on what's going on. There's definitely some cool stuff, and obviously the characters that they reference here, from the Rift as well that they met. So that'd be cool to see them again. But yeah, in addition to that, you get some nice moments between Aang and Katara and their relationship. As I said before, this is going to be their first kind of separation for kind of a while, pretty much. So it's interesting to see how that kind of goes, if there is any kind of effect, like them missing each other from not being together for so long, or what. But yeah, it's just a nice moment, and they're definitely making a big thing of how close their relationship actually is and stuff like that. So very nicely done, all things told. I'm definitely eager to see if, as Smoke and Shadow progresses, are we going to see any more of Katara and Sokka, or is it going to be just a very end of Smoke and Shadow Part 3, set up the next story? This is where Katara and Sokka are. Not massively sure, but they could do something interesting with it, depending on how things go in Smoke and Shadow. But yeah, that's basically all there is to say about these pages. It's very self-explanatory, nothing really complicated going on here, but I just think they're very good pages, and I'm really excited to get Smoke and Shadow Part 2. So release dates now. Smoke and Shadow Part 2 is going to be first released December 16th in comic book stores. That's the comic book store release date. Then 13 days later, December 29th, that's going to be the mass market release date for Smoke and Shadow Part 2. So that's when Amazon are going to be shipping the book out. That's when it's going to be available in regular bookstores. But just be aware that the comic book store date is the first date that comes first. So that's when I'll have my review out and stuff like that. So just be aware of that. So yeah, that has been my thoughts on the Smoke and Shadow Part 2 preview. In the comment section below, definitely let me know your thoughts on these pages, and thoughts on, and you know, I suppose mainly about what they seem to be setting up here. Do you agree with me with the whole idea that the next series is definitely going to be Katara and Sokka focused on the South Pole and anything else that went on in the preview? So that's been the analysis. Thanks for watching, and bye.